I welcome everyone for this webinar. Good evening from Consortium for Inclusive Education. So I would very briefly like to introduce you to our team. So we have, so I am Pooja Bhosle, working with Consortium for Inclusive Education for the past 7 months. And we have our secretary in charge, that is Promila Zalpuri. She's heading this Consortium for Inclusive Education. Ma'am, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, friends. I'm Promila Zalpuri. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So I'm Promila Zalpuri, and I have been working for Consortium for Inclusive Education since the last 4.5, almost five years. And we'll talk more about what we do as Pooja shares Stuti, who is our project associate.
Yeah, so we have Stuti Patel on our team, who is our project associate. And also, I would like to introduce everybody to Faris, who is our speaker today, but I'm not able to see her. Faris ma'am, could you switch on your video?
I've switched on my video and microphone both.
Yes. Thank you so much. Paris ma'am, I would hand over to you to introduce yourself. You would do it much better than me. So,
Thank you. Thanks a lot. So it's lovely to be here. Before I start, may I request everyone to at least switch on their cameras? Keep your microphones off, but if you can switch on your cameras, I would really appreciate it, because otherwise it feels like I'm talking to a wall. You know, if I see faces, it helps me. Thank you. Thanks for those who have switched on it. Thank you so much. Yeah, this is much better. All right. So you know my name. I'm Paris Mahindru, and I am an early years and special education consultant. I have been associated with Consortium for Inclusive Education, I think, since the beginning. I think pretty much from the beginning. I've been doing workshops with them for quite some time now. And as I said, I work as a consultant. So I work with preschools, and I also work with NGOs that are working in the field of special education, or the ones who are working with disadvantaged children. Today's topic is early identification. So basically, we are going to talk about why early identification and how can we do it. Of course, this is an introductory session, and we decided that we will just have a talk. So I'm just going to share some very basic information with you. This will be followed up with an in-person workshop. Now, the in-person workshop, we will be sharing more information on how to do classroom observations, how can you help professionals in order for them to, give a diagnosis to a family, because the teacher's role is very, very important. So we will talk about those things more in detail when we have the in-person workshop. But like I said, today is just introduction. I was told by Pooja earlier, we would like to know, everyone who has joined us, we would like to know your profession, what brings you to this workshop. So if you can use the chat box tool and let us know if you are working in a school, if you are a special needs teacher, if you are a parent of a child with disability, we would be grateful. Thank you. You can take 2 minutes. Okay, so we've got quite many teachers. That's good.
So Paras, you have teachers from pre-primary schools.
Yes,
So
this
that's
is
a
really
great
good.
thing. Yeah.
It's ideal then. We've got the ideal audience. Hi, Shashipuri. I know one participant.
Hello.
So we meet online, hey?
Yes.
Good to see you.
Yes, same here.
Oh, we've got volunteers as well. This is fantastic.
Paras, you can start. Have you shared this? Has Pooja shared your screen?
No, I was just waiting for people to finish their replies, or would you like me to start the PPT? Shall I?
Yeah, I think you should. Yeah.
Okay, so if you haven't finished writing, just go ahead and drop your comment in the chat box, and I will share the screen now. Just bear with me. It's taking a little bit longer.
Paras, even though the agenda says 35 minutes, we'll give you 40 plus minutes.
Oh, you will? You're very
Yes.
kind.
Yeah, very kind.
All right, no problem. Okay, we can have last few minutes for discussion, keep it open, and then people can share their ideas, or if they have any questions, we can try and address those. I hope you're able to see the screen. Are you able to see my presentation?
Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, fantastic. So as I said, I want to talk about early identification and why should we have early identification, and briefly talk about how. Okay. Just a second, the slides are not moving. Okay, so these are the learning outcomes I am hoping to achieve by the end of this talk. As I said, why early identification? Very briefly talk about processes of identification. And if you are working in a pre-primary classroom, or if you are a class teacher, as many of you are, then what should you be looking out for? So this is my agenda. And then, as I said, towards the end, we will have about 15-20 minutes open for discussion. So you can share your ideas. If you have any questions, you can share that with us as well. So early identification is very, very important. I mean, I'm stating the obvious. Now, why is it important? Early identification has benefits both for the child with disability as well as his or her family. So when it comes to children with disability, if the disability is identified at an early age, then obviously the child will receive the correct therapeutic intervention and correct outside stimulation. This will help the child with his growth and development. And we have ample evidence that suggests that children who go through early identification and receive correct therapeutic intervention or special needs intervention, they are able to reach their optimum level of development. They can realize their potential. So obviously, this is a very good news for children if they go for early identification. We also have research available that says that children who have been identified at an early age and intervention started early on, they had more chances of succeeding in school than the other children. So again, it has benefits for inclusive education. And also children in general, like in life in general, also they are better off if they have been through early identification and intervention. As I said, it has benefits to the family also. family who have a child with disability may not necessarily have the skills or strategies to support a child with disability. They need a lot of help. So often what happens is that family choose wait and watch approach. And this leads to a lot of stress in the family. Also, many times we have come across situations where one family member feels very strongly that their child needs additional support and something needs to be done, whereas 2 or 3 other family members might be in a bit of a denial, and they might be like, he's going to grow out of it. So these kind of situations lead to a lot of emotional trauma. There's a lot of emotional turmoil happening within the family. If teachers and early years practitioners help families understand that their child needs to go through early identification, then we can avoid this emotional trauma for the family and for the child as well. So we can reduce the stress for the family members. And I'm sure all of you, since you have background in education and you work with young children, I'm sure you know that what happens in one area of development will have an impact on another area of development. So for example, if a child has difficulty with language and communication skills, then this child definitely will have difficulties in other areas as well if the disability is not identified and proper intervention does not take place at an early age. One of the challenges the child will face is he or she may have behavioral problems. Because the child does not have any means to communicate his or her needs, what is going to happen? Tantrum, behavioral problems, emotional, emotional problems. Also, we know that language and communication skills are extremely important for socializing. So if a child does not have language and communication skills, he's going to struggle with building friendships, socializing, and all these secondary impairments can be avoided if early identification takes place. So again, a lot of benefits to the child. In nutshell, all I can say is that early identification is crucial. It has, even if we look at the cost point of view, it works better, because if we wait and watch, if we adopt wait and watch approach, we are likely to see secondary impairments come in the picture as well. So then the child may need more intervention, the child may need more therapeutic services. So we are increasing the cost for the family as well. So early identification has a lot of benefits for both the child and the family. Now, these are some of the early identification benefits. As I said, helps reach the child his potential. We can prevent or lessen the secondary impairments. We can prevent emotional and behavioral challenges in the child, lessen the stress for the family, success in school, and success in life. I hope this is making sense. If you have any questions, you can put it in the chat box, yeah? Okay. Now, these are some of the processes that are used for early identification. Obviously, these tools are used by professionals who are trained in diagnostic services, and they should not be used by people who have no training in diagnostic services. So screening is one of the basic tools. It usually gives us a general idea about child's growth and development. Then there is risk indicator and preventive factors. Then there is systematic observation, and then comprehensive evaluation. So comprehensive evaluation will include all the above three. I am not going to go a whole lot in detail because, as I said, when we have the in-person workshop, we will talk about these things in detail. But I do want to talk a little bit about the systematic observations. Now, systematic observations are going to be carried out by a professional, and this professional may invite the child with disability to his office and observe him there. The professional may come to the school and observe the child. The professional may make a home visit and observe the child over there as well. So nowadays, professionals do prefer to observe children in their natural environment, which will be their home and their school. However, teachers' observations and parents' observations or parents' feedback is crucial. The kind of observations that a classroom teacher can provide, no one else can. All of you know that you observe children very closely in your classroom. You have the opportunity to observe children in a big group. How do they function in a big group? When you split your classroom into smaller groups and give them activities, again, you have an opportunity to observe the child in a smaller group. You might be working with the child on one-on-one basis. So you have the information about what the child is like in one-on-one setting. Right? You have the observation in the outdoor play area. You can tell the professional what the child is like when he is outside running around. Does he play with other children? Does he engage in boisterous play? What does he do when he has to take a risk? Is he comfortable taking calculated risks in the outdoors? Calculated risk as in climbing a ladder or climbing a jungle gym. So that can be one of your calculated risks. The other thing you can tell professionals is what is the child like in pretend play? You know, does he have imagination? Does he engage in pretend play? This kind of information is crucial. Believe me, it's very, very important for a professional to know how a child plays. You will be able to talk about what the child is like when you engage the child in messy play. So my point is that you have a wide variety of observations available to you, which no one else does. Parents don't have that opportunity. And if a professional comes to the classroom, they come to the classroom for a limited period of time. They have to observe the child in that short span of time. So obviously they will not have the wealth of information that you as teachers have. So your role in helping a professional in diagnostic services is extremely important, and your observations have immense value to all the professionals. Believe me this, because I have done this job. I have given diagnostic services and I have heavily relied on what the classroom teacher said and what the parents said. We can't do without it. I promise you that. Okay. I hope everybody's with me. It makes sense to you. Can you just leave a comment for me in the chat box so I know that if there is anything you need me to clarify? Okay. Thank you, Subhashri. All right, so I'm going ahead. I've got one yes and I'm taking yes for everyone else. I'm trying to move the slide. It's just taking a little bit longer. Okay, so now we are going to talk about stages of play. Now, as I said, play gives you a lot of information about a child. Okay, and play is, children learn through play. They are happy, they are relaxed, they're themselves during play. And as I had earlier said that, play gives us information about whether the child is ready to take a risk. Can a child solve a problem? Does the child have imagination? So all this information we get through play, and you should be very, very conversant with stages of play. Does anybody know stages of play? If I give you 2 minutes, can you put it in the chat box? You can take a guess, it's not a problem. Yeah, parallel play, good job. Good job, Manisha. Yeah. Anyone else? Okay. Free play, yes. Structured play, okay. So these are types of play, yes. Role play also, type of play, very good. Solitary play, that's good. Manjusha, that's a stage, very good. Okay, so you've got some idea. You got some idea of stages of play, and you obviously are very conversant with types of play. Okay, I've got one more, and then I will cooperative play. Very good, Batul. All right. Okay, so yes, you're absolutely right. These are the stages of play. Unoccupied play, solitary play, onlooker play, parallel play, associative play, and cooperative play. So around the age from birth to 3 months, when the infant kind of explore their body and they look at their fingers and they try to grab their toes, that's an unoccupied play. And it's a very important play because, as I said, they are learning about their body. Then comes the solitary play. So solitary play, obviously, as the name suggests, the child plays on her own, is quite oblivious to the others around her. And this lasts till the age of 2 years. Now, the age range I'm giving you, obviously, we need to bear in mind that there are individual differences, and few months here and there is quite normal. The onlooker play starts around the age of 2 years, 1.5, 2 years, I would say. We've often seen that, a little toddler would hold on to mommy's dress and will watch other children play. He's not ready to go and join in with the other children, but he's interested. He's interested in what is happening. So when the child is at solitary play stage, they're quite oblivious to surroundings, whereas onlooker play, the child has become aware of what is happening around him or her. So that's a progress in their social skills. Parallel play around the age of 2 years again. Now, parallel play, what happens is that the child is all right with being within a close proximity of another child. So they may sit together, but they will have completely different kinds of play happening. So one child might be playing with a doll and the other child might be playing with construction blocks. So their play has nothing to do with each other, but they can tolerate being close to other people, other people in the sense, peers, children who are of the same age. Then comes the associative play. Associate play, again, children are playing within close proximity of each other. They are more willing to share their resources. So you may have a group of children playing in the construction corner, and they will share the blocks, but they all have their own agenda. There's no common theme. So you may have one child building a tower, and the other child might be building a train. So there's no interaction as such. There's no cooperation or collaboration happening between the children. And then 4+ is cooperative play, where there is a lot of negotiation, there's a lot of collaboration, cooperation. Children are they're working towards a common goal. They may have an agenda. They might be working on, let's say, building a castle. So there will be a lot of problem solving. There will be a lot of imagination. There will be a lot of collaboration and negotiation. All these things will happen once children are 4+. Now, why do we want to know this? We want to know this because it will give us a lot of information. Play will give us a lot of information on child's physical development, on child's social and emotional skills, and on child's cognitive skills as well. And this information is important for diagnostic purposes, obviously. So let me give you a couple of examples. Now, we've talked about solitary play and onlooker play. Now here, before the age of 2 years, children are still mastering their movements. They're still working on their coordination. I don't mean to say that after the age of 2 years, they stop. They continue working on these skills, but the focus is more on gross motor skills and fine motor skills during the early years. As child becomes physically more and more confident, they will be willing to participate in a play with other children. So if a child who's, let's say, 1.5 years of age or less than 2 years of age and does not have full control over his body, then any kind of commotion, any kind of sudden movement is a threat for the child. And therefore, they would prefer solitary play because they're secure, they feel safe. Also, as far as their social skills are concerned, cooperation, sharing hasn't developed at this age. They want everything to themselves. and therefore they prefer this kind of play. So again, through play, we come to know a lot about child's emotional well-being, physical well-being, and social well-being. And as children grow older, they master their body and they master the movements. They have more control over themselves and around the environment. They also have better social skills. So you would see something like cooperative play where they're working on a common agenda. Okay, so this information is important because if a child comes to me who is, let's say, 3 years of age and is engaging in solitary play, then it's a red flag for me. I'm concerned because solitary play should not go beyond the age of 2 years, ideally. Again, we have to bear in mind individual differences, right? But I would make a note that he's 3 years old and he still prefers to play on his own. He takes his toys in a corner and sits alone and engages in a play. I need to keep an eye on this child. I need to look for other signs. So it gives you an idea what needs to be done next. Does that make sense? Okay, I'm guessing it makes sense. Let me have a look. Okay, thank you, Neha. Okay, so again, this is something that we want to be very, very conversant with. If we are working with young children, then we need to know about their developmental milestones, because again, developmental milestones will give us some idea of what is happening with the child's growth and development. And this information, as I said earlier, in the screening tools, this information is used for diagnostic purposes. So here are some very common and crucial, important milestones that we need to be very, very familiar with. Eye contact, it develops around the age of 2 months. Social smile, around 4 months. Separation anxiety, 9 months. Respond to name, 6 months old babies can respond to name. Follow simple instructions such as give me toy, get me a book. That happens around 12 months of age, which is about 1 year. Participate in games such as peekaboo. Now, peekaboo is a lot to do with object permanence, and object permanence develops around the age of 5 months. So object permanence means that even if I can't see something, it does not mean that it does not exist. It still exists. It's somewhere else. It's just not in front of my eyes. That's what object permanence means. And it's a very important milestone. Simple pretend play such as feeding a doll, that happens before the age of 2 years. Children observe what is happening around them and then they act out. And show concern for a friend who is crying. So that's around the age of 3 years, that this indicates advanced social skills. And turn taking happens around the age of 3 years again, which again relates to your cooperative play. We talked about it earlier. When children cooperate with each other, they're ready to share resources, right? So that's around that age. And enjoys new things and activities. So around 4 years, I mean, of course, 2 years and 3 years old will also enjoy certain new activities, but approximately 4 years, they are more adventurous. They're more willing to try new things out. So these milestones, again, if I give you a very simple example, a child comes to me at the age of 4 and does not have eye contact, big red flag, because that happens at the age of 2 months. Or child does not respond to his name. It should have happened by between the age of 6 and 9 months, but he's 4 and he still doesn't respond to his name. So it's a big flag, red flag for me. So this is how milestones are helping us with diagnostic services. And we should be very, very conversant with the developmental milestones of the children that we are working with. So if you're working with 2 to 3 years, then you should know what a 1-year-old can do, and you should also know what a 3-year-old can do and what obviously a 2-year-old can do as well. Okay. So now we are going to look into some telltale signs of different disabilities. First of all, I am going to talk about some of the disabilities which are very common in children, and these signs are not we cannot give diagnosis based only on these signs. These are, as I said, telltale signs. They give us some idea, and as teachers, our job is to observe, keep an eye on these signs, and then refer the child and his family to a professional for a proper diagnosis. Okay, so autism is a neurodevelopmental disorder, and children who suffer from autism will have difficulty with social interaction, they'll have difficulty with language skills, they may have repetitive behaviors such as hand flapping, their play is limited, their activities are limited, and autism is a spectrum. So not everyone will have the same or identical symptoms or signs, and also the severity will vary. So some people may be having mild symptoms of autism, and someone might be having severe symptoms of autism. All this will be decided based on the diagnosis, which is done by a professional, someone who's trained in diagnostic services. So these are some of the common signs. Does not respond to name. We know, we just talked about it. By the age of 6 months, children respond to their name. Little or lack of eye contact, delay in language development. So they may be able to repeat certain phrases, but they may not use language spontaneously. There are repetitive behaviors such as hand flapping. They might walk on toes. They have very limited interest in peers and in others around them. Social cues have very little meaning. So if I give you one example, if I say, come here, and then I say, come here. Now, I've used the same language, same vocabulary, but these two things have two very different meaning. My tone gives it a meaning. These kind of cues, children on autism spectrum sometimes are quite oblivious to. Lack of spontaneous or make-believe, lack of spontaneous play, or they may not engage in pretend play or what we call imaginative play. Persistent fixation on a part of an object or an object. So you may see that a child takes a toy car and keeps spinning the wheel and will keep looking at it. So that's what I mean when I say persistent fixation on a certain thing. Again, this is not enough for diagnosis, but this will help us refer the family to the diagnostic services. Often children with autism children who are on autism spectrum have associated conditions such as sensory processing disorder, emotional challenges, and all these things we will talk about when we have our in-person workshop. The next common disability is cerebral palsy. It is a physical disability, and it is quite easy to identify. You know, if you have a child coming into your classroom and is not walking, then obviously there is something wrong with the child's physical development. So cerebral palsy is a disorder that affects muscle tone, movement, and motor skills. And the ability to move in a coordinated and purposeful manner is affected. Often children with cerebral palsy are in a position, cognitively, they are in a position to cope with the demands made by the school curriculum. But because of their appearance, we sometimes feel that they may not be able to do what is expected of their age group. If we have proper adaptations, you know, we make certain changes to the chair or the desk they are using, or something so simple as making adaptation to their writing tool. This small little changes can go miles, and it can help child reach his or her potential. So again, diagnosis is very, very important. Sometimes cerebral palsy can be very, very subtle, and especially during early years, and we may not notice it. So it is important that we very closely observe a child's physical development. Only then we will be able to tell if there is some challenge faced by the child. Again, cerebral palsy, also there will be a range. Some children will have mild symptoms. Some children will have more severe symptoms of cerebral palsy. Okay, as you can see in the photograph here, there's one little boy, he's able to walk with a walker, and the other boy, he needs a chair, specially designed chair, and you can see his hands are also affected. Whereas the boy who's walking with a walker, his hands are not affected. So his upper body is not affected, it's just the lower body. Lower part of the body. Whereas some children, they can be quadriplegic, as in all 4 limbs and the trunk is affected. Okay, all right, so let's move on to genetic condition, Down syndrome. Again, quite easy to identify because it does have some typical facial features. And also children with Down syndrome have low muscle tone. So they may appear very floppy and they may have drooling, there's thick tongue. So it's very easy to diagnose. And now with advancement in science and medical science, we are able to tell if the child has trisomy 21 even before birth. There are tests available. So this is not that difficult to identify. But again, children with Down syndrome can have speech-related challenges, they can have behavioral problems, and they can also have challenges with learning. They do need identification and they do need intervention as well. Sensory impairment. So if one sensory organ is not functioning properly, and even with corrective devices, it does not function properly, then it is called a sensory impairment. So right now I'm wearing a pair of glasses, but I do not have visual impairment, because with the glasses, with the corrective device, my vision is absolutely fine. But sometimes even with the corrective devices, the vision is not 100% clear, then it is considered as an impairment. And again, with some adaptation, children with hearing impairment, children with visual impairment can thrive in a school setting. So if you have some doubts about child's hearing, or if you think that the child is quite like, some children are quite clumsy, they keep bumping into things, and you think that, did you not see this? It's right there. But these are some of the telltale signs, and you may want to make note of these signs. And again, I keep saying the same thing, that this is not enough for diagnosis. We need to have proper observation, and we need to have proper assessment take place before we can decide whether it's an impairment or not. But this again is a very common condition in young children. Learning disability. This is very, very tricky, and often children with learning disability are not identified, and they are labeled as difficult, they are labeled as lazy, they're labeled as impulsive, not paying attention. But this is a big problem. Children have difficulty with reading and writing. It does not mean that they don't understand. It has nothing to do with their cognition. It's just the way they perceive, or the way their brain interprets information is different from others. So again, with correct strategies and correct intervention, we can help the child thrive in school and in life in general. These children will also have difficulty with concentration, and they may have difficulty with their attention span. So some of the common signs are difficulty with reading and writing, difficulty with maths, they appear clumsy, they have poor memory, they may not be able to remember what has been told to them. So you give them an instruction, and within a second or two, they've forgotten. You will think that, okay, did you not listen? Did you not pay attention to me? But it's just the way their brain is interpreting the incoming information that's different, and they need to be given instructions slightly different than the other children. They will have, and because they do not understand instruction, they will obviously have difficulty following instruction. They may find it hard to organize themselves. They may find it hard to organize the activity. Obviously, there is impulsiveness with children who have learning disability. So these are some of the telltale signs. Again, not enough for diagnosis. there are proper testing tools available to give diagnosis, and they need to go through this kind of testing in order for them to get a correct diagnosis. There are different kinds of learning disability. Children will have difficulty with reading and writing. That's dyslexia. Reading is language-related disabilities, dyslexia. Then you have dyscalculia, which is maths. You may have noticed, especially if you are working with children who are learning in English, then they may make mistakes between lowercase b and lowercase d. Sometimes children will read, sometimes a child may read 48 as 84. So these are some of the signs that tell us that there is some difficulty, there is some learning disability that the child is experiencing, and the child needs to go through proper diagnosis. So once, as I said in the beginning, have your observation notes ready and make sure that you give them the correct referral. Refer them to the professionals so they can get correct diagnosis, and then we can make necessary adaptations to the curriculum or to the environment in order for us to support these children. I hope this is clear. I hope this is making sense. The last one is attention deficit hyperactivity disorder. So these are some of the signs: impulsiveness, restlessness, poor social skills, poor organizational skills, forgetful, difficulty paying attention. They get distracted very easily. There will be emotional turmoils. They may have a tantrum, outbursts. You may see them daydreaming, difficulty following instructions. So these are again some of the signs that you want to keep an eye on in order for you to help family with the correct referrals. We need to bear in mind that as early years teachers, we do not want to tell parents that, your child may have autism or your child may have ADHD. These disorders have a lot of common symptoms. The symptoms are overlapping each other, and proper correct diagnosis is extremely important. So this brings me to the end of my talk. And I think if you have, we've got about 10 more minutes, 10, 12 more minutes. If you have any comments or if you have any questions, you are free to ask. You can put your question in the chat box. Yes, there is dysgraphia. You're absolutely right. It has to do with handwriting. Thank you, Manjusha. How many years the LD troubles the child? Is that okay? So learning disability, again, it's a condition, it's a lifelong condition, and we learn to manage it. So it may, with the correct intervention, with the correct support, the child will manage the condition so well that it may look like the child has outgrown it. I hope I answered your question, Neha. Is Neha, I'm just curious, is she going for any intervention? And how old is she?
Yes. She's 17 now.
Okay, she's 17 years old. Okay.
She's already 17, and she has undergone a lot of counseling. And right now also her counseling is going on. But as you mentioned, she still has troubles. So I just wanted to know how long, we are helping her the best way we can, but still we are facing the same issues that we used to face when she was she was diagnosed with dyslexia when she was 6-year-old. So since then we are helping her, but the outcome doesn't seem to be that fruitful.
Okay, and is she in a regular curriculum school?
She used to be earlier. Now she's studying in open school.
Okay. So I would, from the age of 6 till 17, if you haven't seen the results that you should, I would look into the kind of program she's going for. So you might want to have her reevaluated, as in not diagnosis part, but if you've got the correct diagnosis, that's fantastic. But look at the curriculum, look at the strategies that are being used to help her understand the information, have that part reevaluated and take a second opinion with the strategy part and intervention part.
Sure, ma'am. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Anyone else has any comment or question?
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, I would just want to know.
Aparna, may I request you to put your camera on so I
Yes,
can see
yes,
your
yes,
face?
yes. I'll just do that. I'll just do that.
Thanks a lot,
Ma'am-
Aparna. I appreciate that. I love that tattoo. See, there are benefits to the camera. Please go
Ma'am,
ahead.
we at the preschool level find it very difficult to convince parents that their child is facing some learning disability. So, do you have any kind of method or counseling centers where parents would readily go and talk it out, because they feel that this child is too young, they will learn, pick it up. But we have seen children who hated writing, would speak very well, read very well, but they hated writing, and over a period of time, they were detected with dyslexia. So when they moved to grade 2, grade 3, and they found difficulty in coping up with the written matter. So is there any kind of counseling centers that we have in Baroda where we can direct these parents to?
Okay, so you have a very valid question. Yes, it is not easy for parents to accept that their child has some kind of challenges or the child has some kind of disabilities. They do go into denial. And yes, you're absolutely right. They do prefer that wait and watch approach. I have come across family members who have said that, I was like this when I was his age and I grew it. It is difficult. When we have the in-person workshop, and if you have an opportunity, do join us. We will talk about how to support family members. Even as preschool teachers, we can do a lot of things to support the families and help them come out of their denial so that they can go to the correct referral services. I think Consortium for Inclusive Education has a lot of references. So if you need more references, you can always get in touch with the Consortium for Inclusive Education. Also, our children's hospital, Vadodara has a children's hospital. There they have diagnostic services and they provide a lot of support to the child and the family. So if you can talk the family into going there, you won the
battle is won. The
Yes.
battle is won.
Yes,
Ma'am,
exactly.
is there any prescribed age limit for these testings? Can I, because like the wait and watch situation, and you also mentioned earlier that the early interventions always help the children, the family on all fronts. So is there any age criteria which is followed or which is taken as authentic for further procedures?
So a child can get a diagnosis at any age. Whenever they go for diagnostic services, they will get the diagnosis. However, early, the better. So, right, there are certain genetic conditions or a condition like cerebral palsy. From the very beginning, we can, give the diagnosis. But as I said earlier, early intervention, the sooner the child goes for diagnostic services, before the age of 3, if they get the diagnosis, we can have such positive influence on their developmental trajectory. Because during the first 3 years, brain is developing at a rapid pace. There are a lot of cell connections happening. And if intervention takes place at this age, then we can do miracles. We can definitely, if not prevent, lessen the severity of secondary impairments as well. So preschool teachers have a very big role to play in early identification. Because if you have the correct observation notes and if you are in a position to convince the family, then we will have early diagnosis. So yeah, you've got a big job to do.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you, ma'am. Thank you for the patient answering of questions. Thank you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, I would like to ask a question.
Yes, please.
So when you keep saying proper assessment can be done only by the right kind of people,
Yes.
would you like to kind of share who do you mean by the right kind of people?
It can
Not
be
a school teacher, not a
no,
school
no, no,
teacher
no, no.
who says that, oh, I think this is autism, or I think this is ADHD. So who?
So anyone who has some training in diagnostic services, so it can be a clinical psychologist. Sometimes special needs teachers also go for this kind of training, and if they've had that training of using diagnostic tools, then they can use the services of such qualified people.
Good. This is what I wanted you to kind of share, so people can understand which is the
Yeah.
best way to assess the child. And as you have been saying that earlier the better, we need to bring parents out of their shell and bring their child to early intervention centers and get the right intervention done.
True.
Any more questions? Okay.
Excuse me, ma'am. I want to
Subhashri.
ask. Yes, ma'am.
Can I
So,
have you on the camera, please?
yeah,
Thank you.
just a second.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, I can see you.
Yeah. So my question is that, like, if I come across a child who is of an age of 3 or 4, the child answers very well. He has complete knowledge of everything which is being according to the age appropriation. But when it comes to the not a writing part, just a coloring, fine motor development part. So in that time, if the child is confused with his hand, which hands, because we know, means if I basically I'm a righty, so the moment I need to do anything, my right hand comes up. So if that happens, a child is still confused. Sometimes the child does with the left, sometimes the child does with the right, but the proper impression or the gripping is not come. Is that something an alarming thing?
So you need to look at other aspects of fine motor development as well. Just because the child is not sure whether to use right hand or left hand is not good enough. We need to see what his hand-eye coordination is like, what are his grips like, we've got pincer grip, we've got tripod grip. So all these information we need to see what his motor planning is like. That's what I keep saying, that, these sometimes we may come across a child who has 1 or 2 signs or symptoms, but may not necessarily have the disability. And sometimes children do outgrow. Therefore, proper diagnosis is very, very important. And this is just simple guesswork. If a child is facing difficulty between using right hand or the left hand, then I will not be surprised if somebody is insisting on him using the right hand and he's a lefty. This happens with a lot of children. They are left-handed, but adults in their life insist that you need to use right hand, you need to use your right hand, and that confuses them. But like I said, this is simple guesswork. It could be the case, it might not be the case. You need to keep an eye on a lot of other signs and symptoms, and then decide what are his gross motor skills like: running, jumping, climbing, rolling.
Everything is perfect.
It doesn't sound like a problem to me.
Okay. And one more question I just wanted to ask is that it's of an age group of something like 3 to 6, like that. So most of you time we have observed the children write the D as a mirror image of a B, 9 as a mirror image. Why do they do that? Is that something related? It's a special scenario? Because I have come across many child, even my daughter, I have seen that she had this problem of mirror imaging. Why it so occurs?
Okay, so it's something that's part of their growing development and motor planning. So when we have to write, our brain is receiving visual information, and then the outcome is motor activity. So we are coordinating a lot of things. And as children grow older, their brain becomes more mature, their other senses become more mature, and they do grow out of it. So it's not a big deal. Just because a child is making mistakes between letter B and letter D does not mean he has learning disability. We have to look at a lot of other symptoms. and young children will do these things. That's why I kept saying that proper diagnosis is very important, because a lot of these signs and symptoms are part of growing up. Young children will show these signs and symptoms, but then they grow out of it. They grow out of it very quickly. As their brain matures, as their experiences increases, they grow out of it. If it's persistent, and if it has a lot of other signs and symptoms associated with it, then you want to refer.
Okay, yeah, thank you. Thank you, ma'am.
I think I've got one question in the chat box. Any courses you suggest for the teacher to help her deal with the needs of her students who need special? So yeah, you can attend workshops. There are a lot of workshops conducted by Consortium for Inclusive Education. As a matter of fact, if I'm not mistaken, there is one workshop coming up on how to make adaptations to the curriculum to help children with special needs. I think Consortium team will be able to tell you more information on the workshop, but attend as many workshops as you possibly can. You can do a lot of reading, equip yourself, and if you're really interested, you can enroll for the special education diploma or degree course as well. They are available online too. I hope I answered your question, Manjusha.
So Manjusha, and as Paras said, that Consortium for Inclusive Education is going to come up with a lot of, initially we are only doing talks and question answer sessions so that we can solve all the queries that are there related to inclusive education. And later on, after that, we are going to go on to workshops where the numbers will be lesser and it will be an activity-based workshop. We, as Paras has been saying, that I want an offline workshop. So looking at what Paras wants, we're thinking of having an offline workshop on the same topic that Paras has discussed today, but in detail, how you could become not an early intervention expert, but how you can start using those techniques and tools in your classroom, or the assessment ways in your classroom, and being able to identify and then refer them to the right person. So we are going to have an offline one. How many of you are in Baroda? I'm sure it will be very easy for you to attend because we would have it at Samaj Suraksha Sankul in Nizampura. And for those who are out of Baroda, you will have to come here, or you will have to attend an online one on demand. I think Paras, because we have a lot of people coming to us on this workshop. I think we had almost 107 at one time. Just now we have 99, but all these people were from Maharashtra, from Karnataka, from Bangalore, and so on. So I think we need to start understanding them and catering to them too. So offline is going to come very soon, one which is going to be in Samaj Suraksha Sankul, and we would want you to be with us and wait for the announcements.
I think Subhashri has a question. So Subhashri, yes, we used to have a diploma course that was being offered by Kashiben Children's Hospital, or rather at Kashiben Children's Hospital. As far as I know, that diploma course has been suspended, yes. Yeah. But if we do come across any diploma courses offered in Vadodara, we can let you know. So just keep in touch with the Consortium for Inclusive Education and we'll keep you posted.
So as Paras said, let me share that we are also planning to start a diploma course, which will be recognized by RCI, that is Rehabilitation Council of India, but we are still in the process and we haven't yet been able to be successful in, kind of registering for it. So let's wait, let's hope. I felt very sad that Kashiben has stopped it, but they've stopped it because they didn't get the right kind of teachers, participants, or students. I want to share over here another thing, that all of you have asked a lot of questions, and still may go back to your school, go back to your homes and think of new questions. We are here at Samaj Suraksha Sankul. Consortium's address is Samaj Suraksha Sankul. I think Pooja can put up the address. Call up Pooja or Stuti or me, and then you can fix up an appointment. And I can assure you we don't charge any fees for that. And those who are online with us, not from Vadodara, but from other cities, if you all mail us your requirement, we will surely be able to solve your individual requirements. I will ask Stuti to ask all the participants to unmute their videos so that she can take a picture of all the participants that are there, almost 94. So we have almost 10 of them who have left us, but please, all of you, if you unmute, we'll be able to see your beautiful face, whether it's with a tattoo or not, that we won't be able to see, but surely we'll be able to see your beautiful faces. Yes. So how many of you are from Maharashtra? If you raise your hands, we'll get a fair idea. Okay, so there are quite a few. And how many of you are from Karnataka? If you raise your hands. Okay, fine. This was just to get an idea because we had almost 270 participants initially. But now today we had around 107. We would like to say a big thank you to all of you. I hope we've been able to answer your questions. And I'm really happy that Paras, with a lot of enthusiasm, with a lot of, her special kind of motivation, she always is one of our best resource persons, our best expert. So thank you, Paras. We met in the morning in the Sankul, and now we are here again offline meeting you. But let me say a big thank you, not only on behalf of Consortium, but even I think on behalf of all you teachers or parents or students, if there are, or doctors. Paras had said that this should go to even the doctors, because there are many doctors also who don't advise parents, pediatricians, who don't advise their children for early intervention. So I think we even want to create awareness, sensitization, and a lot of, kind of curiosity to know more. So if that is there, please join Consortium for Inclusive Education. You can ask us questions. You can fix a Zoom meeting and we'll be able to answer if you are out of Baroda. If you're in Baroda and it's possible for you to come to Vadodara to the Sankul, it will be very good. Sumita, do you want to ask a question?
I think she's just talking to someone else.
She's talking to someone else. So if she can be muted. Yeah. So I think it's almost 7 minutes up. Thank you for patiently waiting for another few minutes, for allowing us to say thanks to all of you. Thanks to Paras, thanks to the CIE team. Thank you very much. And I think now we can all say bye-bye. But before you, please copy the link and give a feedback. That will be really appreciated if you all can do all that. I can see Upasana Daryani. Hello, Upasana. there are many people whom we know and they're there. Batul, Thanawala. Yeah. You're from Bombay? Are you from Mumbai? Yes. Okay. Great. I used to know one Thanawala in Mumbai. He was a Lions Club member. I don't know where.
There are many Thanawalas.
There are many Thanawalas. Okay, fine. Okay, thank you all and bye-bye from Consortium. Bye, Paris.
Thank you so much. It was a
God bless.
pleasure.
God bless. Take care
Bye.
and be
Take
safe, be healthy.